Hi guys! I don't know if we're live yet. My computer has a little bit of a lag, so if we're not live yet, then I'm just talking to myself. But if we are live, all right. Oh, yep, we are live and we're ready to go. Hi everyone. We are talking about young children's social and emotional development today. And I am going to wait just a few minutes until some people come on. How was your weekend? Did anyone do any self-care? Miss Felicia seems to be really happy about something. Oh, Tracy. Hi, Tracy. Did you have a good weekend? Are your kids being nice this morning? She's not answering me. It's okay.
There's a delay. That's what I'm laughing at. There's a delay on my phone watching you live.
Okay. Apparently there's a delay this morning. Maybe when Miss Amber puts this up on the website, she can delete all my random talking. Or she leaves it up because everyone knows that's how it was. Aw, poor Rune. I knew what you meant. Is he feeling better now, Tracy? I almost did talk to text because I'm reading what you're writing. And I was almost like, is he feeling better? ? But legitimately, this is how my 5-year-old has learned punctuation, is from me doing talk to text. So if you do talk to text in front of your little ones, they might learn how to do punctuation, like good morning, ! And then they know that when you say something happy, you should add an exclamation point. Or how's your dog today? ? So just something to think about. Oh, good. I'm glad Rune's feeling better. It's really hard when kids are sick. I think it's the worst thing ever. And then especially if you're sick on top of it, and then you just want your mom to take care of you, but you are the adult and you have to be the mom and then take care of your kids. So, oh, good. We have some more people watching. It's not just the Ryan and Tracy show, although I'm pretty sure we'd be a YouTube sensation if it was, because we're pretty awesome. But probably people that get paid more than me are watching and they're like, Ryan, get to what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to do that. Today we're talking about young children's social and emotional development. And there's this quote that I saw that it says, if your kid can add and read a book and do all these things before going into kindergarten, but can't regulate their emotions, then what's the point? And that's absolutely true. I think especially in American society, we really push our kids to be reading by the time they enter kindergarten and to know all these things. But we have a bunch of kids who can't regulate their emotions, and they can't just tell someone how they're feeling. They have meltdowns, and that's perfectly appropriate for a 5-year-old to still have a meltdown and things like that. But we need to be able to give them tools to regulate those emotions and to help them, so when they enter social situations that they can be appropriate and do what they need to do. So as we're talking about this, we want our kids to share their feelings. And I remember one of the early times I started in Fun Van, I was teaching at a location that wasn't my own, and we were doing this lesson, and one of the moms said that her daughter was upset about something but wasn't crying. And she asked her, oh, sweetie, aren't you upset? And her daughter said yes. And she's like, I'm surprised you're not crying. And she goes, oh, I learned from you, you don't cry about things, even if they make you sad. And she was like, wait, what? She goes, you've never cried, Mom. I've never seen you cry. And so I know that's bad to do. And the mom felt really bad. She thought she was being strong for her daughter by not letting her see that side of her and not crying in front of her. But then she realized that, no, our kids need to see us be emotional and be sad. And that doesn't mean we put our problems on our children. It's not like we are like, your dad's being kind of a jerk right now and I can't stand him, and maybe we go stay at grandma's for the weekend. You don't put your burdens on your kids. But for example, when I lost my dad a couple years ago, I was obviously really upset and crying, and I would just explain to my daughter, I'm crying because I miss Grandpa. I'm sad that he's gone. And sometimes even now, if a song comes on or something, I think of him, she'll be like, I know this reminds you of Grandpa. It's okay to cry. So when we share our feelings with our kids, it helps them be able to share their feelings too, because she'll tell me on random songs, Mom, this song reminds me of Grandpa and I'm really sad right now. And it's very sweet. So we want to share our feelings with our kids to show them that it's appropriate. Even when we're angry, we can say, I'm angry right now. I need to go to my room and just calm down, or I'm really frustrated with this situation. I tell my kids that a lot, like when something happens, I'm not mad at you. I'm frustrated with this situation. So please go in the other room and let me fix whatever it is that's going on. When we're doing that, so we're going to talk about some stuff that we talked about in previous lessons. Use reflective listening. That helps our kids understand their emotions. Recognize your child's uniqueness by saying things like, oh, you like to sing when you're playing with blocks. Oh, I noticed you're really happy when you do this. I noticed it makes you sad when. So notice things that are unique to your child. Fix any breaks in your relationship. So if you get angry, if you lose your cool, if you yell, which we all do at some point, make sure you go back and talk to your child and say, hey, I'm sorry that mommy got upset. I'm sorry that mommy yelled. Like, I was frustrated in this situation, and what can I do to make it better? Help your child see that it's normal to be confused or to have whatever feelings they're feeling. When I was little, I share this story a lot. When I was little, my mom would say, don't cry about that. That's not a real reason to cry. And she was doing what she thought was best. She's a great mom. But I always remember being frustrated. Like, if I want to cry about this, I should be able to cry about this. Like, I'm sad about it. And so her doing that throughout the years has kind of made me an ice queen, and I totally blame her for it. But she was doing what she thought was best. But now with my kids, I'm like, you cry it out. You let all those feelings out. It's okay. And so sometimes my husband will say things to my youngest and be like, do we really need to be crying about that? And she'll be like, I'm allowed to cry. Mommy says so. So let your kids have their feelings and talk to them about it. Like, I do this too, and let them see that it's normal. There's this quote, and I don't know if I've shared it before in the video lessons, but it says, when our kids are having a hard time, they don't say, Mommy, I'm sad, or Mommy, I'm upset. They say, will you play with me? And play really helps our kids get out their feelings and their emotions. When our dog died, oh, by the way, I'm going to say hi. Samantha, meltdowns are real. Hi, Tiana. Hi, Taylor. When our dog had to be put to sleep, it was really hard. We weren't expecting it, and I was really emotional. My husband and I had our dogs, and that was like our first babies. And so we took him to the vet, and the kids came with us, and we had put him down. And when we came home, my oldest wanted to play vet, and she kept, I am well, Tiana. I hope you are too. She wanted to play vet and she wanted me to be the vet and then put her down. And then she wanted to be the vet and put me down. And she was talking about how, oh, look, now I'm in heaven with Bob and Grandpa. And I'm like just emotionally raw, and I'm crying. I'm like, please, I don't want to play this. Like, this is just, I don't want to think about you dying now. But she really needed that to like process what she was feeling and what was happening. And while it really bothered me, I knew that she had to get these feelings out. So I let her play, and she worked out her feelings and emotions through play, and now she's in a good place about it. So sometimes it's hard to let our kids have their feelings or to play out certain things that make us sad or uncomfortable, but they need to be able to do it. Set appropriate limits. Just because we let our kids have emotions doesn't mean that they get to be crazy and overreact. If our child is mad, they don't get to throw blocks at people. They don't get to do things that would cause them pain. They don't get to hit. So keep that in mind, that we can let our kids have healthy emotions, but they need to be healthy, and through that we set limits. Allow comfort objects. Your child, if they have a favorite stuffy or blankie, they feel better after crying too. If they have a stuffy or a blankie, they're not going to be like carrying it to college with them and having to take a test with their favorite stuffy. Your kids will eventually grow out of it. So don't prematurely take it away. Some kids just need a little extra help and they need a little something to get them through the hard times, and it's totally appropriate. And when they get ready, they'll put that stuff up by themselves. So let them have whatever they need to get through the hard times. And no blankie or stuffy is going to hurt anything. And you can put limits on that too. Like you can say, we're not going to bring stuffy into the store because I don't want him to get lost. Or Stuffy's not going in the pool with us because he'll get ruined. So there can be limits on that and there can be boundaries. But let your kids have those things to give them a little extra. So sometimes Ashley, 4-year-old, still has her Lovey. I love all the names that people call these things. They're all different and it makes me happy. Hi, Ash. My kids have dogs to make them. Those are their comfort items. Ash is probably going to have her dog be a comfort item too. So when our kids are having these big feelings, sometimes they have misbehavior because of it. So this is when we try to help our kids understand the difference between, like, this is what you're feeling, so let's not act out over that. And if your kid's throwing a fit about a cookie, maybe it's that they're hungry, maybe it's that they're not getting what they want, but it's your job as the parent to then facilitate, okay, what's really going on? Are we throwing a fit over a cookie, or is it because something else is happening? Are you really throwing a fit over a TV, or is it because you're just bored and you want to do something? So that's where we come in as parents. Crying. We're going to talk about some of these emotional challenges. Crying is hard, I think. Kat's son went to college with his stuffy, but then it didn't come back. And totally, kids bring their stuffies to college, but they're not like holding on to them as they meet with their professors, was my point with that. But I love it. Crying is something that's very natural, very important. Our kids need to get out those feelings. We as adults need to. And so kids know that if they cry, that we'll comfort them and we'll do all these things. Then sometimes crying can definitely be a manipulation. And so you have to kind of balance that, and you can still be an attentive and loving parent and give hugs, but then again, put boundaries on that. So if your kid's crying to get attention, or if they're bored, you give them a hug, you say, I love you. Are you feeling better? And then you can move on. And you can say, if you're still sad, you can go be sad in your room. And when you're ready to come out and play, that's fine. Some kids get depressed. That's a real thing. So watch for signs of depression in your child. It's harder to see in a child than it is an adult, I think. But even with adults, we don't always see it. Look for loss of energy, withdrawal, feelings of hopelessness, no attempt to change or to express their feelings. Look for signs of when they're saying things like, I just don't want to be here right now. I just want, like, kids will say things like, I just want to end all of this. I don't want to live anymore. And that's very sad. And sometimes as parents, we get completely freaked out. I mean, my child hasn't said that yet, but it would be very hard for me to keep my composure if she did. But we say, okay, so if you weren't here, that would make mommy really sad, and you're just going through a hard point right now. Like, what can we do to make this better? That we can give our kids the tools to get through those hard times. And something that I want to say is that children don't understand the finality of death until about the age of 12. And that's the developmental age of 12, not the linear timeline of age of 12. So young children think of death as kind of like a video game. Like, okay, so if I end my life, then I can come back and it will be better. So keep that in mind, that your child may not understand the finality of death, and they may say things just because they're having a hard time. Or if someone in your family dies, your kids might be expecting them to come back later, or they'll say things like, when my father-in-law died, my niece had asked Santa, because her other grandpa died, she asked Santa to bring her grandpas back for Christmas. And Christmas morning came and her grandpas weren't there. And she was like really upset because Santa grants wishes. So she didn't understand. And she was 6 at the time. She didn't understand that once we're gone, we're gone. So that's really hard for kids. So sometimes they'll say things that they don't fully understand. So it's our job to help them work through that. So empathize with your child. Let them know you know what they're feeling. Encourage your child. So if they're having a hard time, like, let's find something that you like that we can kind of distract you with and move forward with. And just show care and support. That's what we all want. That's what our kids want too. Jealousy. Who's experienced jealousy with their kids? Whether it's between parents, a sibling, friends. Jealousy can be hard sometimes. Some kids are more jealous than others. And sometimes it can be harder when our kids have a bigger age gap between babies. So if your kid's 5 or 6 and then a new baby comes, that older child's been the baby this whole time and the only child. And so sometimes that's hard for a new baby to come in. Or if they're already the baby of the family and then another baby comes in, there can be a lot of jealousy. My youngest was jealous of random strangers all the time. Like, she came to Fun Band once and like some of the kids were hugging me and she's like, no, my mommy, and got really jealous. She's kind of grown out of that, but empathize. Your kids love you and they love the attention that you give them and the time you spend with them. So sometimes it's hard when someone else takes that away from them. Kids have a lot of fears. Some kids more than others. Fears are totally normal. Even if they're not what we would consider scary, they're scary to kids. I remember one time I was at a baby shower and a dog jumped up on this 2-year-old's shoulders and licked her on the face, and the kid freaked out. And the dad was like, that's not something to freak out at. If a dog kisses you, that's not the worst thing in the world, and got really grumpy with her. And me being me, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And I was like, what if a huge dog jumped up onto your shoulders and put its face in your face? You would be freaked out. Like, she's little. This dog is her size. And of course it scared her. He rolled his eyes and walked away. But fears are normal. And like, yes, I know that a dog to me is cute and fun. But if you're not used to dogs or a dog's never jumped on you and licked your face, that would be very, very scary. Oh, Samantha, kids get jealous over pets all the time. My kids do too. So when even if you see your kid being jealous, by the way, that doesn't mean it will last that long. And if they're jealous of someone else, it doesn't mean they'll be jealous of a new sibling. I thought my oldest would be super jealous of my youngest, and it was really great. And then I've had people who thought they wouldn't be jealous at all, and then they were. So you just never know. If you want more kids, just have them. Don't worry about jealousy. It will all work itself out. Help your children through their fears. So understand that's normal. Understand why your child's fearful. Maintain limits, because you don't want to push your kid into even more irrational fears. So you don't want to go like where your kid can't pass by, like if dogs scare you, that they're even scared of stuffed animal dogs. But understand that people have real fears of dogs, and don't try to be like, oh, well, you're scared of dogs, and shove your kid into, a little playpen full of puppies. So have limits, maintain limits, that if we see a dog, then we're going to walk on the other side of the street, or you can wave from a distance and know that you'll be safe. And then help them talk about their fears. Like, why are they scared of dogs? Or why are they scared at night? How can you help that? Is a nightlight appropriate? Can we look under the bed and make sure there's no monsters there? I know some people use like a monster spray if their kids are scared of that. I would say nightmares and fear of animals are like the most common fears young kids have. So just know that it's totally normal, and most People will outgrow it. Not everyone does, though, and that's okay. That I'm totally scared of heights and can't even like look over the edge of a second story like railing. But then it works out in my regular life, and I'm not trying to bungee jump or anything, and your kids will be fine too. Sometimes our fears as parents limit our kids. So me being scared of heights, I can't watch my kids climb on big, huge things or do crazy things that are high up because my fears come out to play, and I'm like, oh no, this is what's happening. So keep that in mind, that we as parents need to let our kids explore the world and do things, even if it makes us uncomfortable. So we're not going to always be able to protect them and shelter them. So let them kind of push limits a little bit and explore things. You can still maintain safety, but don't let your fears keep them from having a normal, healthy life. Any questions about this so far? Our kids throw temper tantrums. Who was just saying that her child throws a bunch of temper tantrums at 2? Temper tantrums are normal and healthy, and some kids are way worse than others. So what you can do to help make them better is you can ignore the tantrum. And you can do that in a nice, kind, positive way. If your child throws a tantrum, you say, I'm sorry that you're upset. Come find me when you're done, and walk away. Because a lot of times kids throw tantrums for attention or to try to get their way. And if they're not, then that will start to subside. And it might get worse at first, but it will eventually get better. You can give a timeout. And again, if you remember last week when we talked about discipline, timeouts can be very effective and they can be used very positively. But that doesn't mean we stick them in a corner. If your kid's already having a tantrum and you stick them in a corner and then fight with them to stay there, that's just going to only escalate the problem. Give them a place where they can calm down and be chill and get back to baseline. Give choices. If your kid's throwing a tantrum because they want a cookie, say, if you're hungry, you can have a snack. You can choose an apple or a banana. Or you can have a cookie after dinner or before bed. Whatever that looks like in your family, give choices. Because sometimes kids throw tantrums because they want to have control. So the more choices we give them, that gives them control within boundaries that are appropriate with us. Preventing tantrums. This goes back to last week's lesson where you're like setting the environment for what you want. So if kids are throwing tantrums because of TV time, things we can do is say, don't let them watch TV during the week. Like, you can have boundaries on that, or say you get to watch one episode of Paw Patrol, but then the TV is going off. Don't do things when your kid's hungry or tired. Don't try to go to the grocery store when your kid's hungry or tired. And I know sometimes that's hard, but I throw tantrums in the grocery store when I'm tired or hungry, and like someone's taking forever, right? Like, have you ever been in the grocery store and someone's like trying to pay with all like nickels and pennies, and then they have 17 coupons for each item, and you're like, I just want to get home and eat these Oreos that I have in my bag that I've already eaten half of, like, let's move it. So sometimes we get that way too, but it's even harder for our kids, right? So make sure that when your kids are having a hard time, we're not trying to make it worse by going out and doing things. That's really hard. I get it. We're all busy, and sometimes we're like, we just got to get this done. But try to be cognizant of that, because that will help. Distract your kid from a situation that you know they'll probably throw a tantrum at. Like, try to prevent it going in, being like, hey, we're going in the grocery store. Let's bring our Lego people with us, or here's some dolls that you can play with. And then help your child get rid of some of that extra attention or energy by having a dance party, going outside and running around, wrestling around, whatever it is. Get out some of that extra anxious energy to help prevent a tantrum. Next, I'm going to talk about stress. And I hear a lot of parents say things, and probably all of us have said something similar to it at some point, like, oh, that's a problem. You don't know what a problem is. I've got bills to pay. I've got this to do. I've got to do this and that. and we downplay our kids' problems. But for a 2-year-old, having the crust cut off of their sandwich could be a very real problem for them. Having a dog lick them in the face, very real problem. So our kids have stress in their lives. And I mean, like, as adults, it doesn't seem very stressful to, be able to nap and have someone make you food and clean up after you and give you all the toys that you want. But also as an adult, you get to make all the choices that you want, and you get to you can go out when you want and do all these things that you want. And our kids don't have those same options. So listen to your child's feelings, reduce competitiveness. I will say this one's hard in our family because my husband and I are super competitive, and our oldest is very competitive. So I always I'm like, okay, like, who can clean up the most Legos? And I do things like that. But that adds to stress. Like, my child has to be the first and the best. And so that's hard on her. So now I've had to say, like, not everything's a competition. We don't always win. Like, she'll be eating lunch with her friends and be like, okay, like, I'm going to beat you guys. Like, food's not a competition. Like, let's calm it down. Encourage your efforts and notice signs of progress. If they're having a hard time learning to draw or write their letters, like, notice when they do good ones, like, oh, that was a perfect E. You have been really working hard on the letter E. Create an atmosphere where your child feels accepted. I feel like that's sometimes hard, especially if our kids are very different than us. But make sure your child knows that they're loved and accepted no matter what. And help your kid learn to relax. It seems like that's maybe not always like, my child needs to learn to relax. And they do. We do some cognitive behavioral therapy in our house. My daughter has anxiety. And so there's a couple things that we do. We do a grounding technique where when she's upset, we say, name 1 thing you smell, name 2 things you taste, name 3 things you hear, name 4 things you feel, and name 5 things you see. So we go through those, and that helps ground all of her senses back to her body. And sometimes we have to do it more than once. She also has this book. It's called A Spot of Anxiety, and it talks about like taking your anxious feelings and then bringing them down to calm. So there are things that we can do. I will post some of those after this video, some calming techniques that you can do with your kids, even just deep breathing. My youngest likes to do smell the roses, blow out the birthday candles. And like, that's the only thing I can do to get her to calm down. Or she wants to do a science experiment. She says she'll be calm for a science experiment. So help your kids do that, because they'll need that in the real world. Because when they go to class, the teacher's not going to throw on a TV show for them to calm down or be able to hug them for 20 minutes. So we have to give them tools that they can use in the real world. Our kids are learning to be social in the first few years. Babies don't really play with each other. Toddlers tend to play next to each other. They'll be playing with things, but not really interacting. And then as they get older, they start to do that interactive play. And when you watch your kids, like, really let them lead the play, because it's really interesting to see which kids take the lead and say, hey, we're going to play princesses and dragons, and you get to be a princess and you're going to be a dragon, and this is going to be our castle. And which kids are like, okay, I'll just go with the flow. Your kids' personalities really come out when they're playing with other kids. But when we step in, that hinders them. And you can help your kid. Like, my child likes to please people. So in school, when she was playing, she always was like a character she didn't like. So we would have to talk about, like, maybe be more assertive. Maybe do this. You guys are responding to great things. And I pray that I'm not commenting on all of them, but I am reading them and I love them. So help your kids play and interact with other kids, and talk about sharing, which doesn't happen until about the age of 4. But saying like, oh, it's nice to have turns and we can take turns with things, or you like it when your friend shares with you at their house. How about you let them play with this at your house? Also, ways to encourage social interest. Encourage helping at an early age. I talk about chores and how great they are and how they help our kids in so many ways. And they do. Your kid is going to be part of a society where they're going to have to clean their own dishes and do their own laundry and sweep their own floors. So get your kids started on that early. And they're not going to be great and they're not going to do a perfect job. And it doesn't mean that they are responsible for all the dishes in the family every night. But let them load the dishwasher. Let them put away the silverware. Let kids handle their own mistakes. Sometimes that's hard for us because we want to come in and fix things. I am a fixer. I want to fix all the things that kids do, but they have to learn to solve their own problems. So when your kids make a mistake, give them a chance to handle it. I now say, if my kids come up to me and say, Mom, this happened, I say, okay, how can you fix it? And so then I'm like, oh, I'll go get paper towels and clean up my spill, or, oh, I bet I could put this back together. Let your kids have a chance to handle their own mistakes. Don't expect perfection out of kids. Don't expect perfection out of anyone, really, because you're never going to get it. But if you ask your kid to do a task and they do it, even if it's wrong, just be glad that they did it and be proud of them that they did it. I always give the example of people have the right way or the wrong way to load a dishwasher. And it used to bother me when my husband would load the dishwasher and then he would do it wrong. And I'd want to go in there and fix it. And I had to remind myself, did dishes get done? Did I have to do them? No? Okay. So whether it was done right or wrong, the dishes did get clean and then we moved on. Recognize that your kids get better at stuff. Hey, you used to just put away the forks and the spoons, but look now you can put away plates. Or you just used to put away your laundry, but now you fold it and put it away. I'm so proud of you. Don't fix your kids' things. So if your kid folds a shirt, but it's not folded right, think about how patronizing that is. If you did something and then your husband came in and fixed it, or your wife came in and fixed it, that would be so aggravating. I appreciate you doing this, but you didn't do it right, so I'm just going to do it over you. And would that make you want to help anymore? It wouldn't. Work, play, and learn together as a family. That's how your kid's going to grow and learn, is by doing all these things as a family, because they're learning from you. You're your child's first and best teacher. A couple other things I want to talk about is honesty. Kids can't really purposefully lie until about the age of 7. They start testing it out around the age of 5. But our little kids say things like, they'll make up these huge fantasy stories. They talk about things that they wish would happen, and it's not real. So sometimes a 3-year-old will say, oh, I didn't do that. They totally did. They wish they didn't because they don't want to get in trouble, right? But our kids aren't lying to be mean and sneaky and hurtful. Sometimes they just don't realize that it's not true because they have a very blurred vision of reality. I mean, how many of you have had, okay, well, I am lost. I don't know if I'm lost for reals. I'll keep talking if everyone can still see me. Make a comment if you can still see me. Maybe.
Your video's
Okay.
delayed on mine, so I have to wait
Okay.
for it to catch up to where you are to know.
Okay, so it says that I can't see my video, but I don't know if that's real. So I'm going to keep talking until I have confirmation on whether it's real, if you can see me or not. Let's see if anyone else has commented. No. So when our kids, okay, Tiana can see me. Great. So when kids are not being honest, we use logic to say, wow, that's really cool that you got to ride on a dragon's back, but are dragons real? Have you ever seen one in real life? Or someone ate the cookies and I know it wasn't me and no one else is home and all the cookies are gone and you have Oreo all around your face. I know that it's you that ate the cookies. And then say like, and try to encourage your kids to be honest. I always say you might get in trouble if you lied, or you will get in trouble if you lie to me, but if you don't lie to me, we can fix whatever problem it is. Potty training. I think potty training is probably the hardest things that parents have to go through. And as society, we've really pushed kids to be potty trained at such an early age before they're really even able to go to the bathroom. Because if they want to get into preschool, if they want to do anything like that, they have to be potty trained. And the reality is that our kids don't have the cognitive ability, the physical ability to be really potty trained at 2. Some kids, yes, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. To have to be able to hold your bladder, wait until you get to a bathroom, use the bathroom, and then recognize like, oh, I feel that I have to go. Also to be like, I have to stop what I'm doing to then go use the bathroom. Play is the most important things for our kids. Like that is their number one goal in life. It's what they should be doing all the time. So if we're asking kids to stop playing and then maybe brother, sister, friend steal their toy in that time when they're going to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, wash their hands, and then come back, it sounds terrible to a little kid. So when you're potty training, make sure that your child is ready, that they're age appropriate. Never ever punish for potty training. Please do not punish for accidents. That one will give your kid a complex, and 2, it's not going to help the situation. Kids are weird and they'll do weird things in their own time. I know a lot of kids will put on a diaper and poop in a closet. They will only poop in a diaper. If that's the case, explain to your kids that we eat food, it gets digested, and it's coming out of you. It's food, it's not part of you. Because some kids think, this is coming out of me. Part of me is going to be flushed down the toilet, and it's scary. It's so scary for them. So we have to help with those fears. Make sure your kids have access to be able to go to the bathroom by themselves. So whether that's a potty chair, a step stool, they have the tools to be able to go. Because if we're just like, hey, you're 2 and 2 feet 3 inches, go ahead and use my adult potty and then wash your hands. That's not realistic. And if we're asking our kids to potty train and then we're like making dinner and then they're like, we have to go potty and you have to help them, but you're worried that your dinner's going to burn, your kid's probably going to have an accident. If they do have an accident, just say, no worries, let's change you and move on. Accidents happen. Accidents happen up until about the age of 7. I'm going to be real honest. I've had a couple kids and accidents still happen for me, and I'm almost 40. But it's not a big deal. And nighttime accidents can happen until about the age of 12 and still be appropriate. So don't worry about your kid being nighttime potty trained right away. You don't have to worry about your kid being potty trained in general right away. They will get it. They're not going to go to kindergarten. It's still in a diaper. Just have some grace, help them through it. And there's a huge variety of different ways to help potty train. Some kids don't like the feeling of being wet in panties. Some kids do better with pull-ups. You kind of have to just go through those and see. Tiana says, wow, nighttime accident until the age of 12. Yes, and that's completely appropriate. Our bodies develop like a chemical in them that wakes us up when we have to go to the bathroom, and it can take a long time for some people to develop that. Some people are heavier sleepers. There's a whole lot of things that go along with that. So if after 12 your kid's still having accidents, or if your kid's been totally nighttime potty trained and then they start having accidents, maybe it's time to talk to your doctor, but it is appropriate to have those. And then help your child with potty training. So put it on you. If you give your kid a large cup of water and then you get in the car and then are mad that they have to pee 10 minutes into your trip, that's on you. If you give your kid a ton of water before bed and then they have an accident in their bed, that's on you. So set them up to be successful and tell them it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to have accidents. It's not a huge thing. Another hard thing for our kids is bedtime. Who here has kids that hate bedtime? I do. And there's, again, a lot of different ways that you can do this, and you have to find out what fits your kids. But bedtime, you should always have a bedtime routine. You should try to stick to it as much as possible. You should have an actual bedtime that's appropriate for their age. My husband and I are night owls, so when my oldest was a baby and a toddler, she stayed up late every night because we stayed up late, and then she slept in every morning. And then we had our youngest, and she is early to bed, early to rise. And because I wasn't having 2 bedtimes for 2 little kids, my oldest had to get on the baby schedule because the baby was much easier to get to bed and did much better with bedtime. And now my oldest sleeps much better. Our kids have a natural clock inside of them, and they do better the earlier they go to bed. Now, if that doesn't work for you because your spouse works late or you work late and they want to be able to see your kids, or you want to have dinner as a family, like, I understand that. So I'm not saying you have to put your kids to bed at 5 o'clock by any means. You have to do what's best for your family as a whole. But the earlier kids go to bed, the easier it is on them. Also, having a routine and sticking to that routine is very imperative. So whether that's bath, lotion, book, whatever that looks like in your family, stay away from screen time at night. Just like for adults, the blue light and all of the noise and energy coming off of a screen interrupts our ability to sleep. So I have known parents that put on a movie until their kid passes out. It's not the movie that's helping your kid going to sleep. It's just their body is like so tired that they fall asleep. You could have done that with stories. You could have done that just with them being in their room. So keep a routine and then use things to help facilitate sleep. Lights being off, calming music. Don't have a wrestle party 2 minutes before your kids go to bed. My husband's the worst about that. Do things to help facilitate a calm, relaxing sleep environment. Another hard time for families is meal time. Some kids are just naturally really great non-picky eaters, and some kids will only eat chicken nuggets and French fries. So at mealtime, have regular meal times as much as possible. That way your kids know what to expect. Be reasonable with what your kid's like. If you know that your kid really hates bell peppers, don't make a bell pepper casserole and then say, eat this or starve, because your kid probably won't eat it. I mean, that's just, you can't force your kid to eat things. But you can have appropriate boundaries on this. That, for example, in my family, I make this awesome vegan jambalaya. It's so good. And my husband and I love it. My youngest likes it, and my oldest, it has all the things she doesn't like in it. I'm not going to quit eating it because I love it. So on the night that I make jambalaya, she can have a sandwich. She can have something else that's easy. She can have a fruit platter for dinner, a veggie platter for dinner, that she can have something else. I'm not going to try to force her to eat something that I know she truly doesn't like. Now, sometimes I'll encourage her because I say, our taste buds change. Will you just try it? Because there's a lot of things you do like in it. And so she'll try it. And the more you expose your child to different foods, the more likely they are to eat those foods. But at the same time, don't try to force foods on your kids. And you can put stuff that they don't necessarily like on the plate with it. So if you're making, mashed potatoes and peas and grilled asparagus, and your child doesn't like asparagus, you can still put it on their plate because maybe they might try it this day. You don't have to do a ton, you don't have to waste food, but put a couple on there. So Tiana said, I always offer fruits and veggies if my kids don't like something. Great, that's a great way to do it. My mom always said, you can have a bowl of cereal. That's because she's lazy like me and doesn't like to cook. But you can offer your kids other things without making separate full meals for everyone. So we went over a lot today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll respond later because we have a meeting coming up. But thank you guys for all the great things that you wrote. Thank you for participating with me. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.